it. And I'd love for
Mhm.
you to please tell me a little bit about your, journey, what you,
Mhm.
your husband Jim started and with McDonald's and, what that experience was, especially, maybe in the beginning.
Mhm.
Help me through that.
Yeah. So, Jim and I met in our mid 20s. He was working in sales at the time. I was working in public relations. We both were very happy in our careers at that time. And then as we got married and started family planning, we started looking at McDonald's as an option for us. Mine and Amanda's dad was a McDonald's owner operator, and we knew that the possibility was there from his end if we wanted to one day take over the business. So we started having conversations with my dad at that point and decided to make the leap, moving from Charleston at the time up to Raleigh, um, starting the training process, quitting our jobs, and
Mhm.
just fully jumping in. So we actually moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina, when it was time to start training in the restaurants with a 2 month old. Our oldest was 2 months old.
Wow.
Started working. Jim,
Wow.
yeah,
That's a
Jim quit.
big, big leap in both of you diving in with a 2 month old.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah. Jim quit his job first and was making minimum wage through his training process. So we were able to rely on my salary and then my savings that I had earned
Wow.
over my entire career. And pretty much went
Wow.
through our savings as part of the training process. So we were all in every way. And you know, we went from that type of relationship where you're two, working young professionals, you would get together after work and talk about your day and vent about your coworkers and whatever it was. And it became this very different dynamic where I'll try not to cry,
It's
where,
okay. If you need to
you
cry,
know,
cry.
we we had so much riding on our success, right? Like we were all in. So when Jim would come home and complain, my gut response was, well, you need to figure it out and you need to toughen up and you need to get better. And that was so different from where we had come from, where I would listen and say, oh gosh, that's tough.
Mm,
When you're sharing the same future trajectory, venting becomes very different. And so
mm.
the first year was learning how to run shifts in the restaurant and, you know, working overnights. He would work a variety of, morning shift, mid shift, night shift, overnight
Wow.
shift. So he was
Wow.
exhausted and I was exhausted because I had a newborn and a full-time job. So it
Did
was
you have
crazy.
help? Did you have
Huh?
help?
No, at the beginning, I did not have help.
Wow.
So that was crazy. I should have. I should have pushed myself harder to find help. We didn't know anyone in Fayetteville, and so yeah, I would have like a crying baby and muting my conference calls. And
Mm.
when James turned 1, I did eventually go to care.com and found a great nanny. And she came 5 days a week
Oh,
and would help.
wow.
That's when I started working in the restaurant too. So that was just, a must do at that point.
And when
And
you say working in the restaurant, what were you doing in the restaurant?
so I did the same path as Jim,
Okay.
where you start at the bottom, you learn how to make biscuits, learn how to lay
Wow.
sausage, hamburgers, you work the grill, you work the sandwich station, know how to assemble the sandwiches, fries, fried products, everything. And then you learn from there how to run a shift. So you're the manager in charge for a 4 to 8 hour period. And you're in charge of making sure you have enough product and the equipment is working properly and you have enough people on your schedule, but not too many people. And
Mm.
you're in charge of everything for that period of time. So,
And how long did you do this in the restaurant?
oh gosh, I did it probably like a year and a half. Um,
Wow. So was
Mhm.
that the protocol for corporate McDonald's to do that length of time like that?
So that was really my dad's, preference. And
Okay.
I'm glad that he did because
Okay.
he wanted to make sure that by the time Jim or I crossed paths with a McDonald's corporate person, that we knew everything and we were confident in everything. And, we were completely solid.
Smart.
So,
And were you?
yeah,
Did you feel that way after a year and a half?
yeah, yeah. And so then we were able to go through the approvals process more quickly than most people
Interesting.
because a lot of people will start that training program first at a much younger age. We were in our mid 30s at that
Hmm.
point and had previous careers and had children. And I think all of that plays in just the life experience piece. But also, if you come in as an applicant and you don't know the answer to a question or you don't seem totally confident, then that's going to set you back. They're
Absolutely.
going to take their time with you.
No, I
And
think that was a really on point thing to do.
yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Me too. I
Yeah.
think he wanted to make sure too that we definitely wanted to do it. Um,
Yes.
and
Yes.
we
Yes.
definitely did. So
Um, well, you've already touched on the work-life balance. Did it morph? You had more children, so I don't know where,
mhm.
because how far apart are the children? I can't remember.
They're 2 grades apart. So,
Okay.
like ninth grade, seventh grade, fifth grade. So, yeah, I was pregnant with Duncan and pregnant with Greer during those days. I was pregnant with Duncan as we were trying to get approved, and Greer. I was pregnant with both of
Wow.
them as we were going through the approvals process. So that looked like me waddling around the restaurants, working up until the due
Wow.
date. I think I had Duncan like 2 days after I stopped working. So yeah, it's just one of those times in life, and I know you can relate where you just look back and you're like, how did I do that?
Yes. It's literally feels like a miracle. It's sort of a
Mhm.
blur too, I think.
Yeah. And I think we all have those times in our lives that, that plays. And so yeah, I mean, it was chaotic. I
Mm.
felt like I was not fully being there for the kids. We had the nanny taking them to preschool and picking them up most days and, being there with Greer as a baby and Duncan. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of balance. It just felt really chaotic
Did you
and fast.
did you feel like were you able did you have to compartmentalize to an extent this is work, this is home life, or was it just it just sort of felt like a messy blend?
It was a very messy blend. Yeah. Um, I would have loved to have been able to compartmentalize it, but a lot of the calls that I would get were after hours calls, like something
Mm.
had broken at the
Yeah.
restaurant or somebody got in a fight, or, for a while I would take the customer complaint calls and those would
Oh,
come
wow. Okay.
all hours, and then as time stretched on, you don't know when you're going to get approved. You just keep going.
Mm.
There's no deadline. It's like you're running this race, but you have no idea where the finish line is.
Okay.
So, as we were trying to think about, okay, what more can we possibly do to get approved while raising 3 really young kids, it just felt like it was always
Mm.
there, you
You were
know.
always on fire to an
Mhm.
extent.
Mhm.
Yes.
Lot of work talks while you're pushing strollers around the neighborhood and things like that.
And so how many restaurants did you begin with?
So we began with 2, and then dad bought a third location, I want to say around 2013, while we were going through the approvals process. And then Jim and I bought our own restaurant solo in 2016 and then another in 2018. And then we bought three more in 2021. So we had eight.
And so how long was your dad a part of this process? Like,
Yeah.
did he
So
bow out and you guys
um,
completely took over?
he was with us. We got started with him in 2011, and then he retired in 2021. So 10 years.
Okay. Okay. So what did leadership look like and feel like for you in the beginning and as you moved through?
Mhm. So I was very intimidated coming in
Mm,
because my career up to that point was consulting. And, as a consultant, you come in and you're a good listener and you give, what you hope are insightful points of view that make that person want to do what you're suggesting.
And this
It's,
was a different field.
yeah, yeah, this was going to be very, very different. So I had this impression of leadership needing to be like my dad's leadership style, which was very stern,
Hmm.
my way or no way, get the job done type of male dominant leadership. And I thought,
Hmm.
oh my God, this is not me. How am I
Right.
going to do this? I can't be somebody else. So I learned that you have to lead in the way that makes sense to you.
Mm,
And early in my McDonald's experience, as I was going through the approvals program, I did a panel discussion with other people going through the program. It's called the Next Gen
hmm.
program for next
Hmm.
generation. And so somebody asked from the audience, how do you all get your restaurant teams to move away from your parent, which is usually your dad, as the leader, and move to you as the leader?
Okay.
And so someone on the panel said, you need to use your resources in the program and, study up and do these things. And somebody else said, I agree, use your resources, use, other people, maybe your director of operations and other
Hmm.
franchisees. And so my answer was, you need to walk in their shoes, like the program has, made it for us. You need to start from the bottom. You need to walk in their shoes. You need to have some really hard days, maybe go cry in your car at the end of the day. You need to live it like they live it in order for them to follow you. In
Mm,
other words, you can't just come in and say,
hmm.
I'm the boss, you follow me now. That's going to
Yes.
fall very flat. So I think I just took that to heart when I would show up and, think about leadership for me as at the time, 36, 37-year-old woman is going to be very different from my dad, who had been in that business for 20 plus years at that point. And my leadership was listening, being available,
Mm,
being more vulnerable, um, leveling out the communications where it wasn't, I'm telling you what to do. It was more, let's come to the table together and figure
mm,
out how to accomplish this.
hmm.
So then I became more like a consultant, how I had been,
Hmm.
because you're leading people in these restaurants who have been there for decades and they
Hmm.
have the answers, but they need the
Hmm.
space and the opportunity to come up with them. So it was
And
a, yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, and what was their response to this new leadership style? And you coming forth and saying, I don't have all the answers and I want to, lean on you and you bring your experience into this, please, with me. What was
Mhm.
the response there?
At first, they didn't believe it. I have, there's a
That's
woman
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, who ran a restaurant for my dad for 20 years. And
Mm,
uh, she loves my dad. She loved the relationship that they had. And so there was this day that, her food cost was just really, really out of whack. And I was asking her, what's going on? How do we get underneath this? How do we fix this? And she didn't believe me that I was not going to penalize her if she came up with somewhere that she had fallen down. And
Wow.
she had this realization through the course of the conversation that I meant it when I said, I'm here to help you. And she went back and referenced that day with me years later when we were
Wow.
working together. So, I forgot where the question originally
Well, I was
started.
asking, what was the
Yeah.
response once you got
Mhm.
beyond sort of the initial shock, culture shock and the shift in leadership?
Mhm.
Did she show up differently at work after
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
In what
Yes.
way?
So she really felt that I had her back, and
Mhm.
she had um close to the same amount of loyalty to me as she did to my dad, if not more. It was a different relationship, a different type of loyalty. But she knew that she could call me if she had a problem and
Mhm.
I was going to help her fix it. I wasn't going to write her up about it and,
Mhm.
hold it against her. So, sometimes she would call too much, but she would use that as a tool for herself to call, and we would kind of think through different challenges together. And so yeah, she would have done anything for me. I know that with absolute certainty.
So a strong sense of loyalty.
Mhm.
That's really, really interesting. And so at this point, your husband is also evolving and creating his own sense of style of leadership.
Mhm.
So can you speak somewhat about co-leadership?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting dynamic as you're both individually evolving and learning and growing, and yet you're leading together and
Mhm.
you're husband and wife, and you have young
Yes.
children. So there's a lot at play there. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So McDonald's traditionally, their model of local restaurant ownership, they liked husband and wife teams. They liked
Really?
the mom
Okay.
and um,
Interesting.
team. And, it seems kind of like a throwback to, you know, parents leading together and, very family driven, but it actually works really well, or it did for Jim and me, because he's the numbers guy and the process guy.
Hmm.
And he did a great job of keeping up. There's just a slew of metrics that you're responsible for
Sure.
a McDonald's restaurant. So
Sure.
he knew those metrics forward and backward, daily, monthly, annually. And you have to have that. You can't, run a restaurant without knowing your numbers, knowing why they're going a certain way. And so he did a great job of sitting down with each of our restaurant managers and talking through those things. Then at the same time, I had the softer approach, the less numbers driven approach and conversations. And then I also came in on the other side for the really tough conversations
Mm-hmm.
where somebody needed to go on a performance improvement plan or somebody needed to be terminated. Um, I guess just the really people heavy
Hmm.
components of the business, I was able to play a bigger part.
Okay.
And so over time, I think pretty quickly, the restaurant managers learned who to call for what. What was a Jim conversation and what was a Courtney
Okay.
conversation. For the most part, they stayed in that lane with us.
Well, that's great that that's what happened, I think,
Yeah, I do too.
right?
I do too. I think it worked really
Very,
well.
mhm.
Mhm. And we were able to step in for each other when that aspect of leadership was needed. And I
Okay.
also think that Jim's leadership softened tremendously as his confidence grew. It's like that inverse
Interesting.
relationship,
Yeah.
where the displayed, you know, bravado lessens as the confidence grows.
Mhm.
He came in like, okay, I'm taking over for my father-in-law. I've got to know my stuff. I've got to be tough. I've got to get these results. And that didn't work. He had a team of 8 women running the restaurants. Every general manager was a female. And,
Interesting.
there were some times where that did not go over well. And so I loved seeing his progression toward the end. He was just much more open minded, and it was great. I mean, he looked more like the guy I fell in love with on that side of
I was
things.
just about to say he could be himself. Think it's
Exactly.
normal for anyone to step into a new role, a leadership role, and think they have to put on sort of this front or a mask to function for, for
Mhm.
people to respect them. But it actually, as you said, when you soften and you really are this more authentic version of yourself, people relate to that more, I think,
Mhm.
you know.
For sure.
Um, they feel like they can much more approachable. So
Yes.
that's that's fascinating. I think that's really, really interesting. Well, it sounds like there were so many moments, but can you speak about a particular moment of vulnerability for you as a leader and how maybe one that changed how you lead or how you see yourself? You did address this to an extent earlier.
Yeah, I mean, one early on was, I came from a large PR agency background. So everybody in our firm walked a certain walk. You were college educated, you had a certain amount of thick skin, you were good under pressure. People just you could just go back and forth pretty quickly on any topic
Mhm.
in those agencies. And we were having a problem with scheduling in one of our restaurants that you don't want to have too many hours on the floor, too many people on the floor when the business doesn't call for it, and you don't want to have too few when you're really churning out the order. So McDonald's has a number of tools to help you, and we just weren't seeing improvement. And so in my mind, I thought, okay, today is the day where this changes. And I'm going to put my foot down and I'm going to be, you know, tough about this. And enough is enough. I'm not seeing the results I want.
Mhm.
So I met at the restaurant with the general manager and a couple of her scheduling managers, and I was approaching it like I would in the agency, like, well, what happened here? And why didn't you do it this way? And
Mhm.
what about this? And what about that? And why would you do this? And they were starting to break down. It
Mhm.
was not, it was not going well. And I was hitting my head up against a wall, like, why is this tough person approach not effective like it had been maybe in the past?
Mhm.
And so I had to just walk away. I had to just go outside
Mhm.
and breathe and take a moment.
Mhm.
And the restaurant manager could see how frustrated I was. And she came out and she said, "We will figure this out.
Mhm.
Like, we'll get there. I see how important it is to you, and we'll get there." And I have to give the credit to her because she had the maturity in that moment that I was not showing. I mean, here I was trying to get to a better place, and she had to come pull me back in. Um, but I think at that moment, I realized I'm not going to see the same results as quickly as I'm used to.
Mhm.
Number one. And number two, I really have to give this up to this group of people to accomplish. Like, it's not my
Mhm.
prize to go after, it's theirs. And I've got to be there to help facilitate it.
Mhm.
But obviously, I'm not going to be able to just, you know, snap my fingers and get what I want here. So it was a hard but necessary
Mhm.
lesson in restaurant management,
Mhm.
I think.
Humbling.
Humbling, yeah. And I
Um,
also had to think I have to hang up my desire to get an A plus on everything. Like,
that's
you're
interesting.
not going
That's
to get
that's
an A.
interesting. Because
Yeah.
what's really the end goal, right?
Mhm. Right.
Is it about you making an A plus or the team being happy, the restaurant functioning well?
Yes.
Yeah. It's an interesting lesson, I think, too. All of us have ego. And I think that as we go through life experiences, if we really pay attention and want to grow and want to learn, the ego will begin to dissipate. And it becomes less and less about the A plus for us and this, you know, goal, or whatever we think that is, and really about, a group or a team or the overall performance, perhaps. So that's my opinion
Absolutely.
anyway.
Well said. Yeah.
So, piggybacking that, I'd love to know, how did you create a sense of purpose or pride in your teams given the structure of McDonald's?
Mhm. We worked really hard on that. We created company values. So
Hmm.
the acronym was CARES, and it was, we are caring, accountable, respectful, committed to excellence, and service minded. So we tried to brand that around the restaurant, reinforce that. If we saw someone doing something good, according to our values, we would give them a little token that they could cash in for prizes
Hmm.
to reinforce, like, hey, you're really walking the walk. Great job.
Hmm.
We also did monthly awards for folks for, crew person of the month, manager of the month. We had restaurant level awards for fastest drive through, best customer satisfaction. We thought it was extremely important to have McDonald's be about more than how many hamburgers you sold that day and, you know, fueling the huge machine that it is. So
Hmm.
we tried very hard to make sure that people felt like this was a place where they had flexible employment, they had a good, solid job, they had people about them at work who cared about them and their well-being. For some people, work was a place of safety and compassion,
Hmm.
and you know um, it was a place for them to seek out when maybe their home life wasn't
Hmm.
going so well. So
That's
we really
interesting to hear. I
mhm,
hadn't really thought of that.
mhm.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so we, just wanted people to feel purpose and feel seen and appreciated. And I think that was really successful for us. I mean, turnover is just through the roof for, you know,
Oh,
quick
yeah.
service restaurants. And it matters, it really does matter how you show up for your employees and how you make them feel, you know.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so transitioning a bit, I know we talked
Yeah.
about this recently, that you and Jim recently sold your restaurants. It's been about a year now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Last
That's
November
exactly.
or
Uh-huh.
October? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, one, I guess, what inspired you to sell the restaurants, and how did that transition feel personally and professionally? Um, I know that so much of our identity is often wrapped up in what we do, and that's huge. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So there are so many things underneath the decision to leave. Um, one was I felt like I was not really living. I was, waking up in the morning and checking emails and checking texts, and at the same time, halfway listening to my kids when they were telling me what was going on in their lives. And um, same thing at night, primarily focused on work tasks and not fully checked in on the family piece. And I did not like how that felt. It started to feel really bad. And then at the same time, McDonald's Corporation was making a number of changes that I felt benefited the corporation more than the owner
Mm.
operators. So I was kind of keeping my eye on that. And then at the same time, their, you know, costs of labor, costs of food, costs of technology, cost of service visits, everything, cost of insurance, everything was going up
Yes.
rapidly. And there's only so much you can do to the price of your products to accommodate for that. So I didn't feel that it was in our best interest to stay
Mhm.
for a number of reasons. And our relationship was suffering.
Mhm.
Jim and I were constantly talking about work. And
Yeah.
as much as you know that you shouldn't, and you preach it to other people not to, you just can't escape it when you're getting the call that they need to talk to you right then. Um, it almost felt like an emergency services situation. If somebody calls you and says, someone just got in a fight in the lobby, or
Um,
someone just attacked our employee,
oh,
or,
wow.
there's a CO2 leak, or,
Oh,
you
yeah.
cannot roll that to voicemail. You just,
No, no, that is an emergency. That is an emergency. Absolutely.
and yeah. And so with 8 restaurants, those things happened.
Mm.
And also at the same time, just knowing that they could happen is a level of stress. Like your phone's right there and you're like, don't ring, don't ring. And then if it does ring, you're like, oh God, what is it?
You're
And
on alert. You're on alert
yeah,
all the time. Yeah.
yeah. And, with 8 restaurants, anything, it just felt higher stakes. And so our even day-to-day conversations about work felt like there was more pressure around it. So, relationship wise, I felt like I was getting farther away from my romantic partner, my, life partner, and it was getting too mired down in the business side
Mhm.
of things. So I was observing all these things for a good year plus and just making note of my feelings and what my gut was telling me to do. And then finally I said to Jim, like, look, I really don't think I want to keep going with this.
Mhm.
And fortunately, he said, I'll back your play. Whatever you want to do, you're my wife, you're my
Mhm.
priority. Like, I'm with you. So that was huge. And then we had a conversation. We knew a family that had sold their business, and we shared an accountant with them. And we had a very casual conversation about, you know, what restaurants were selling for, what type of number we might expect for our business. And that's when it became real, because we realized we could actually do it and feel good about it. And so yeah, from then on it was, full steam ahead.
And it
Just
happened relatively quickly, correct?
yeah.
Sale?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an example of when the universe says
Mm.
something is right, and there really weren't too many obstacles, and it all fell into place. And, not once did I wonder if we were doing the right thing through the process.
You knew.
It just felt very clear that that's what we were meant to do.
Yeah, and how great that you and Jim aligned on that, or he aligned with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yes.
Um, so looking back, are there leadership lessons that you can point to that you're going to be able to carry forward? You know, you may still be in a transition and you're trying to figure out exactly what you want to do, what Jim, he may be in the same. Um, but as you move forward, are there leadership lessons that are in general that you will carry forward with you?
Yes. I think the main leadership lesson that I'll carry forward is, you don't have to look or act a certain way to be a leader. You don't have to
Mm.
check certain boxes. The main thing is your intention and your time, your
Mhm.
commitment to it. If you have the right intention and you are committed, then you will have an impact as a
Mm.
leader, period. You don't have to be the best public speaker or, data tracker, you can find people to help you where you fall short. But if you give your time and your purpose is, pure, then I think you will get to where you want to be. I think the other thing with my transition from McDonald's to life now is it ties back a little bit to, hanging up the desire for the A+. Like, I'm a leader in different ways. I'm a leader to my kids and in my community in different ways. And I've taught a couple of art lessons to kids in our town, and I'm helping them, on a very small level, but a really powerful level. I'm helping them. And so it's not titles and it's not, accolades, but I know that I'm leading in really important ways.
So that is incredible. And I think that's a really, really powerful message. So this actually literally leads you somewhat answered my next question is what is your definition of success and how has it changed
Mm.
in the last 10 to 15 years?
To me, success is living with purpose and really living.
Mm.
Um, because, we have these little awards that we got with our time at McDonald's, and, you would get recognition for hitting certain metrics and sales goals and everything like that, but it didn't feel good.
Mm.
After a while, it just didn't feel good. I felt like I was not checked in on life. I felt like I was prioritizing work over things, really heady things that I needed to be focusing on in my real life. And so I think success now is me being grounded in what's important, living, being more present in what's going on around me, and also having purpose. I feel like I have a solid purpose with my art and my raising of my kids and, doing some stuff around Raleigh. It's not somebody else's purpose that I'm trying to charge up the ladder on.
Right.
It's mine. And it's very specific and it's small, but it feels good. So I think that's success.
I think that's really, really beautiful because I think a lot of us really fall into that category if you are climbing this ladder and charging toward the top of the mountain. And then sometimes you get there and you're like, this isn't what I thought. And so you start really looking around at different things. And it sounds like that's what you did. But it's all part of the journey. I mean, I think it's all
Right.
part of that discovery, you know? You don't know until you know.
Mhm. You're right. I think had I gone straight here, it would not feel as sweet. And I would, have issues with it. So having,
Right. You would have been wondering and thinking, did I miss out on this?
mhm.
But also, I mean, I think that a lot of your purpose probably was through that process as a leader running restaurants and also, you were interacting and with people. I mean, it's interacting with customers and your team members and yourself within that context that you really hone all of these things, I think. And of course, as a mother and as a wife and a sister and a daughter and all of these things. So it's quite a journey.
Yes.
Um, so I guess if you could share one insight about leadership or resilience with emerging leaders, what would you share?
Mm. I think I would probably share that, you need to be flexible and you need to recognize that, you know, only so much is in your control. You need to adapt to your situation. I think about, the example we talked about earlier where they just weren't going to get what I wanted in the time frame that I wanted it done. So think about um, think about your team, think about what they're realistically able to do at that point in time, and maybe adjust your expectations to fit. It's not to say that you should give up, but maybe you need to push your timeline back a little for that original goal.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can't get it done without people.
Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, well, I think you somewhat answered this, but how do you see vulnerability or authenticity playing a role in the future of leadership? Do you think leadership across the board? I mean, you dealt directly, obviously you were running your own restaurants, but you were also dealing with the corporate side. Um, can you offer any perspective on that in general, or what you saw, or what you think the future is?
I think there's not enough authenticity in leadership in corporate America and politics. I think uh, as people are looking for the climb, they push that vulnerability to the side and that honest connection and honest feedback because it's natural. You're trying to protect yourself and
Mhm.
advance yourself. And you think, well, if I say this, then that's going to come back poorly on me. And you're trying to get that prize. So I think, with it not being that widespread, I think people oftentimes appreciate the authenticity and the vulnerability when they see it. I think right now, our country is aching for authenticity and vulnerability and leadership in a
Mm.
lot of ways. And I think eventually the pendulum will swing away from what we're seeing. People are going to want to feel, I mean, we're already seeing it. People want to feel heard, they want to feel taken care of. And so I think in the next, call it 1 to 2 years, I'd like to think that there will be even more of a movement toward vulnerability and authenticity in leadership.
I hope
Because
so.
what we're seeing now is not successful. It's not working.
Mhm. It's an older model.
Right.
I mean, even the one generational shift from your dad's, my dad's, the boomer generation
Mm-hmm.
to our generation, there was a big swing and it was
Mm-hmm.
much appreciated. And it's not
Right.
to say that they didn't have absolutely fantastic intentions and some great, leadership skills, obviously, but it is different and it's a different time. And you know, the upcoming generation is also very different and their expectations are different.
They are. I mean, they really want to be heard,
Yeah.
and the complexity of the issues that people face, whether it's government, non-government, corporate, whatever, you need more minds around the table to figure these things out. And so that lends itself to vulnerability in leadership because the days of the guy in charge with the nice suit saying, okay, I'm going to figure out all of these things, that's just not believable. It's
It's
not.
not. It's not. No, no. And I think team members, they really respond and they feel valued and seen. I think there's tremendous, as you stated, there's tremendous loyalty too that comes with that because they feel like they really have a stake in what happens and there's great pride where they work. And it's not simply about following direction. It's saying, hey, here are my ideas. It feels like an open enough culture where they can present ideas and maybe they won't all go through, but maybe some will.
Right.
Some people are willing to listen. So, um, well, I thank you so much. This has been so informative and
Ew.
really, really interesting. And I think you really have a lot to offer. And I'm excited for you and for Jim and you're in this next phase and
Thank
where it
you.
takes you. So
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's super fun to think back make more sense of that time in my
good.
life and just have more appreciation for it.
Well, good. Have you had, because it hasn't been that long, have you thought about much about it before today?
No, I can't really say that I have
Mm.
because life happens and you don't really stop and think and reflect on things,
Mhm.
normally. So it was a gift for me to be able to just
Good.
think through. Yeah, yeah. I really, wouldn't trade it. It was a tough time, but the growth is hard,
Growth
but
is
it's
hard. Growth is hard, but necessary.
mm,
And
yeah.
And then you have a lot of great things that you can share with your children,
Mhm.
other people coming up in the industry as well, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank
Thank
you. I'm so
you. Thank you
excited for
so
you.
much.
Yeah. What are you
Wonderful.
you have a
So,
busy weekend or
Anna has a busy weekend.
yeah.
I just keep up with her. No,
Get
not
it?
really. Not really. Actually, this weekend's not too crazy. Of course, next weekend, Halloween and all
Mhm.
of the things. What about you guys?
Jim and James have a Boy Scouts camp out, so they're
Fun.
gonna head out this afternoon. And Duncan and Greer and I are just gonna kind of lay low. Greer's gonna have a friend come over and play on Saturday, and that's about it. It should be really nice.
Good. And it's cold.
Yeah.
It's cold there.
Yeah, I'm like in a fleece and freezing in my house. I'm gonna have to kick on the heat at some point.
Yeah, even here, I mean, it's been, I think it was even upper 40s in the morning. So I'm like, there, it's got to be chilly.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Yeah, here we go.
Y'all get a lot of snow, right?
We actually don't. Like
Hmm.
it's last year I swear it was like every time it would get close to freezing but not quite there, it would rain. And then when
Hmm.
it would get below freezing, we'd have no precipitation. So hopefully this year we'll get some good snow.
Get some.
Yeah.
Well, good. And I can't remember, do y'all all get together for Thanksgiving with Amanda?
Yeah, we are this year. I talked to Amanda this morning. She said to tell you, hey.
Good. I'm gonna hit her up too. I love
Yeah,
this, by the way. This is really, really interesting. And so I'd love to get her perspective too. And I love the leadership as a female is so different than as a male to an extent. So anyway, I do want to talk to her as well. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. So
she'll
Thanksgiving.
she'll have some great stuff
I'd
because
love to talk to her.
she and I have talked in the past, and I actually thought of her with one of the topics we talked about with your personal brand and vulnerability not being a part of that. That was very prevalent at the bank. I remember her saying, like, once you get to a certain level,
Mhm.
it's less about the work and it's more about the politics and the personal brand and
Personal brand. That's interesting.
it,
I'm gonna
and
definitely see if I can set up a time with her. No, that's really, really interesting. And I remember her expressing some challenges with her boss, who just was like, it's like she didn't want her to be human with children.
super tough.
That's
Yeah,
tough. Yeah.
really
She was
unfortunate.
really struggled with leaving.
Hmm. What were we talking about?
I'm sorry, Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
We're together.
So this year we'll be together. We're gonna go to Lake Norman.
Oh,
Mom and
good.
her sisters and
Oh,
brother and a
fun.
bunch of people. How about you guys? Oh, is
So,
Luis's mom there?
no, but he's going to get her in a couple weeks.
Oh my
Actually, probably like a week and a
gosh.
half to 2 weeks.
Okay, great.
I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud. She's going to be here for Thanksgiving,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
wild. And then
Is
Margaret
she?
will be home.
Oh, how
And
sweet.
I know. And she's not going to like the cold. I mean, it's really funny. People in Havana, well, even Miami for that matter, um, literally, if it is like no joke below 70 degrees, they have like coats. I've seen people with
Oh yeah.
scarves. Basically, the streets of Havana are empty. There was one time, I mean, it's so rare, but I do remember this one time I was there, and I think it hit like in the 50s one time. It was like in December in the morning. You could have heard a pin drop on the streets of
Oh.
Havana. And I remember seeing somebody with actually like leather gloves and a scarf walking around. It was like 60 degrees. And I was like, wow, they freak out. Everything's,
Yeah.
shut up, closed up.
Oh,
So
she's
how
gonna
that
need to
goes, she's gonna be like, I am turning around and leaving.
go.
But it's gonna be amazing because Marcus will be home. Just to see our life here. And then I'm not positive, but I really, really hope so. She'll be here through the holidays. I'm not sure
Okay,
beyond that.
great.
But for the first time ever, Luisa's sister and our nephew may come as well. So have his whole family here, like at Christmas.
Wow.
Mind blowing. Like
Yes.
mind blowing.
Oh
And
my,
our kids have never met. So their cousin Cassiel will be 16 in December. Um, and like he favors Louise a lot. It's really
mm,
interesting personality wise. And so anyway,
How
This
cool.
maybe this is sort of the year of the Simones, I think, which is really
Oh,
amazing on that side. They've just been all over the world, like so
yeah.
separate for so long.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild and amazing. And like just thinking about, I really think about, I think I mentioned this to you, like getting my dad and his mom together for the first time in almost 25 years. We've been together almost 25 years.
Wow.
And it's
Yeah.
like they have this innate fondness for each other and they've never met. And
Oh,
so,
it's wonderful.
my dad loves Louise so much. And, Anna and I have a great relationship. We adore each other. And everyone knows this, but to like get everyone together anyway, just and
But
his
yeah,
mom Anna's never going to speak English, and my dad is never going to speak Spanish, so it will
right.
be us translating, but there'll be a lot going on that won't need translating, so that'll be
Yeah,
really cool. But I'm excited. It's so strange but amazing.
I'm so
Well,
happy
we'll
for
just me too. Thank you. And I always love Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's pretty low key. Like we'll usually my dad and stepmother will come over. Um like my brother, they tend to go with his wife's family. So it's kind of low key. So we'll cook and
you. Good. Now, has Luis's mom ever celebrated Thanksgiving? They don't. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
oh yeah, it's a whole and luckily again it is pretty low key.
Hmm.
Um no, she's never been to the United States. She's only been to Italy and it was a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
Pretty wild. And she has a US
Yes.
green card. So
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
it really I don't use the word surreal in a light way, and I do not use the word often, if ever, and it is truly surreal. So
Well, I think we talked about it, but journal what you're feeling because I feel like
thank you
that's
for the reminder.
fascinating.
Yeah, I literally I get goosebumps talking
Yeah.
about it. It's just it means so much to Luis. It means so much to me, but for Luis to have his family here and to the time of life where he is, where we are, it's so much more peaceful,
Yeah.
much like you guys. I mean,
Mhm.
we're busy, but it's nothing like the chaos of early in your business and early in your careers and you're raising kids. And
Mhm.
I mean, there is it's sort of a blur. So for
Yeah.
her to come now is really, really special. We have more time for her. Louise has more time for her. Um, so
Yay.
all
Well,
the things like
enjoy every bit of it.
we
And
will.
I'm
I
so
feel
glad
like
we
we can
reconnected.
be so present. I'm sorry.
I'm so glad you and I reconnected.
Me
Like
too.
keep keep me posted on things. I'll
I
follow you.
will.
Yeah.
I'm letting this is really cool. This is why I appreciate where we kind of all are in life right now, where I certainly have things happening, but I feel like everything feels right. Everything is unfolding. I'm not pushing anything.
Hmm.
This is the beauty of being 50, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you're younger than I am, and you're there as well, but I'm letting things evolve. I'm
Yeah.
allowing things in. I'm not pushing anything. And so as I feel more comfortable, it doesn't mean I don't have growth. And there's definitely some
Sure.
uncomfortable stuff that
Yeah.
makes me nervous because I'm putting myself out there in a very, very new way. But there is also this sense of it's unfolding as it should. It's fun. I love this conversation. I love learning. Um, and sort of tapping into this n- new side, but it's really kind of an evolution of what I've already been doing. So, um,
Well, you're very good at it
well, you're
too.
very kind. Thank you, because this is new. I mean, I've interviewed tons of people, not like this though. So this is
Yeah.
really, really interesting, and you have so much to say and so much to share. And I really appreciate as a female, you talking about that side of it. Men, it applies to men.
Hmm.
I think there are some men who are open to it. Sounds like Jim certainly is and was. Um, and Jim doesn't strike me as this staunch, stoic person. I think he has a lot to sit and lean into. And
Really does.
I don't know him as well, but that's my impression.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, he's grown more that way. I think a lot of men do as he's gotten older. Like he's softened
yeah,
in a lot of ways, but he never started out like gruff and tough ever.
yeah.
He's never
It's
been that
it's it's
person.
a different it's a big paradigm shift. And in general. And but it's really interesting. I'm going to do the other half of this demo. And the great thing too is the more I do it, and also because of this time in my life, I don't feel like everything has to be perfect, as you alluded to. So, as you mentioned, it's showing up with intention, good intentions, purpose. I feel the tremendous amount of purpose and being able to share not only my own experiences, but experiences like yours. There's so much value there. And I think it's so important for our kids. Marcus is 18. He's freshman in college. His intention is to get in the College of Business. Um, so many people just coming out of college. I remember very much putting on a mask when I got into New York City. It was very
Oh yeah.
intimidating.
Yeah.
I was very self-conscious about my Southern accent,
Uh-huh.
being a Southerner in New York City.
Yep.
And I don't know, I'm actually, one thing I'd love to know, just out of curiosity, is did you feel a sense of shame as a Southerner? I did, and I don't know why. Maybe it was me, maybe it was my own experience. I couldn't have put a name to it or a reason behind it. But I know I get chills saying this because I wish I had been nicer to myself.
Mhm.
But when I got to New York, I wanted to hide my accent. And to an extent, that's hiding a version of myself. And then the fascinating thing, but I couldn't. I had to get out there.
Right.
Now, when I got into organizations, no one treated me as such. This really was
Right.
something I carried with me. People
Mhm.
very much appreciated I showed up on time. I was nice. I was polite. I answered the phone
Smart.
nicely. These are like
Mhm.
basic skills, but I carried shame. I mean, I wouldn't have said this even 10 years ago, but it's very real. But the most fascinating thing to me was that when I was with this temp agency, I go to Talk Magazine. I'm second assistant to Tina Brown. I'd written this college paper on her. I was starry-eyed, right?
Incredible.
Um, it was temporary, and I connected with one other person immediately in the building. I did not know him very well. We were the only two Southerners in the building, and he was the vice president of the company. He was a
Wow.
legendary figure in publishing. I didn't know anything about him, but he was Joe Armstrong, and he was this very proud Texan, loud, proud. He had a huge Texas flag hanging outside of his office. He would
Oh,
play this funny song. What was it? I don't remember what the song was, but it was very Texan. And he would wear cowboy boots with his suit.
oh
Okay.
my
And this
gosh.
is,
So he
he
wore
was
it
loud and
proudly.
proud. So I
Yeah.
was like Southerner, right? And so we didn't know each other at all, but he did know my name and he called me Georgia. And we
Oh.
would wave, and there was this instant sort of connection.
Uh-huh.
So when I had to leave my job, I did not want to leave. I had really connected with a lot of other people in the office. And I went, and he wasn't there, and I went to say goodbye. And I just scribbled a note and I said, if you hear of anything, please let me know. And I left it on his seat. 2 weeks later, Joe called me and asked me if I wanted to be his assistant.
No
It
way.
was in being myself, in
Wow.
being Southern, that
Oh,
I got the job that I wanted. So there to me is so much. I didn't really recognize this at the time. But anyway,
yeah.
I'm going off course. Did you feel any of that, or was that a similar
Yes.
experience?
So Amanda and I, Columbus County, it's like a different level of Southern accent. Like to to tell you, like my son several years ago went to an NC State game, and he and Jim ran into a friend of mine and her son. And James was probably like 8 years old at the time. So they chit chatted. And then Jim said when he and James were walking away, James was like, Dad, what language was Price speaking? Like it is a very thick Southern
Isn't
accent.
that funny? From the mouths
So,
of babes, that's really funny.
right. And so when I went to college, I remember going to a Brugger's Bagels with Amanda,
Mhm.
and we were ordering our food, and I told the person behind the counter I wanted tomato, and it probably sounded more like tomato at that point. And they laughed at me. They laughed and they were like, "What's that? Tomato?" And I teared up. I got so angry and embarrassed. And I like walked away and Amanda's like, "What is wrong?" I think they thought it was cute. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't feel cute about it. And I don't feel that, I don't remember what I said at the time, but the feeling was like, I feel like they are pointing and laughing at me right now.
Mhm.
So when I got to college, I tried to tone it down a
Mm.
little bit at that point. And then I was probably like a couple of years down the road living in DC. And I think it was when I got my first job at a big agency. I had a similar feeling where I was like, okay, I don't need to sound this Southern. And so I consciously toned down my accent. And then once we moved away, I mean, I don't know how long I carried it, but definitely by the time we moved away and moved down to Charleston, I was like, okay, I need to just be myself. Everybody's Southern here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely had the same thing.
Strange. It's like I felt like they were going to think I was a bumpkin or something, and like I couldn't,
Mhm.
I wasn't
Like
as
not
smart, or
smart.
and I don't know. I mean, and there realistically probably was more of a stigma at the time. But I have to say, once I got in, like when I got a job at Target, I made great friends. Nobody cared. I mean, I made phenomenal friends, and they were most of them were from, up north. And
Mhm.
I
I
did
think
have.
it's, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, no. I did have one friend, and it was not mean-spirited at all. It was not. But I did have one friend I went to college with. He was from New Jersey. We were both in New York at the same time. And at some point we were gonna, I don't remember, we were gonna get together for something. So I called his house in New Jersey, and I'm dating myself. There were still answering machines in the house.
Right.
And I left a message for Dave on the answering machine. And he called me back the next day. He said, Melanie, my family listened to your message like 30 times. And I'm like, I was horrified. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said they thought it was so funny. He goes in a sweet way. They couldn't believe that someone actually sounds like that. I was like, really?
There you go. Yeah.
And he was not mean-spirited. He said,
No,
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 no, they
no.
thought it
They
was
thought it was cute.
adorable,
Hmm.
but it definitely touched a nerve because I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So anyway, now I could care less. I sound what I sound like, and it honestly does not matter. But
Right.
no, thank you for sharing that.
I
So
think I was just going to add, I think there's something there with the male female dynamic because George W. Bush was president at that time in my
good
days in
point.
DC, and he's a proud Texan. And you know, I don't know if it was like you being in this big, tall office building corporate world, and same for me that we already felt like subconsciously even like I'm a female and I need to be taken seriously,
Maybe.
and
I'm sure that
Southern
played into it.
women aren't
Mhm.
seen and heard in environments like that. I didn't know a single Southern woman in the building at my time there. Like I can't think of a single one.
Okay, interesting. Um,
Hmm.
as far, yeah, I was the only Southerner beside, I mean, especially, I was the only female Southerner. Now that you
Hmm.
say that, that I can think of.
Hmm.
But I'll tell you, I mean, once I was integrated there, I mean, I was never treated that
Oh
way.
no.
So it
Yeah.
really was so much in my head.
Just with us.
No
Uh-huh.
one cared.
Yeah.
No one cared.
Hmm.
So
There's such a good lesson there.
it really is. So
Yeah.
well, thank you. I love
Yay.
this. And
But
yeah, let's please stay in touch. And
yeah, same. I will.
I'm gonna review this, and I may actually just share it even with my crazy lighting and all of that. I may send it to my friends, see if they can touch up the lighting a little bit because I feel like I'm
Yeah.
got a shiny head. But this was, I mean, I think this is really, I think what you shared is really, really important. And I love that you shared it on this side of it and you're not in the middle of it. So you have
Yeah.
so much perspective. So anyway,
Thank
big
you
kiss.
so much.
I loved it. So big
Me
kiss.
too.
All right.
All right. Y'all have a great weekend. Bye, Mel.
Bye.